Aloha guys, Scuba Chris here. Now, you remember I just did a video just recently when I was up at the North Shore. I pulled out some old footage. It was one of my first, I would say, new first reels and rods that I had since I got back into fishing. That was after I ended my jumping around the world, diving around the world, and looking for rare seashells all over. So I got into shoreline fishing for myself, and later on became a YouTube video person, and I started representing companies. So at the time, I bought a few Shimanos. Now, normally, when I buy a Shimano reel, I buy two if I like it. And it never dawned on me that when I made my video using this reel here, this is a Shimano Sedona. This is the FD. Yes, that FD. This is the 2500 side that is not going to be made anymore. I put it away. Since then, nobody's really seen this. Even on YouTube, there's only one lady who did something on it, like a quick blurb, and it went away. So let me show you what I can add to that. Now this one here, the weight is 9.5 ounces and the gear ratio is 6.2 to 1, which means for every one time you make a rotation, turning of the handle, the spool would turn 6.2 times, which back at 8 to 10 years ago when this came out was actually pretty good, because it's actually pretty good now for that to happen. So that was something. And it has your standard 5+1 bearings, which is 5 stainless steel bearings and 1 roller bearing, which is very important. So I'm going to unbox this. I'm going to try to do the best job I can, because I haven't seen this in 8 to 10 years. It's been in storage, and I finally found it in storage. So I dug it out. The seal has not been broken yet. Well, look. Okay, now the seal has been broken. Okay, so I'm just, after I do this, I'm gonna have to figure out my line. Oh geez, garbage man is here. Okay. Okay, after I do this, I'm gonna figure out what kind of line I'm gonna put on it, but I gotta figure out the application first. So the line capacity for this, if you can hear me, for a 6-pound mono is 200 yards, right? For 8-pound mono, 140 yards. For a 10-pound mono, mono is 120. So I either gonna go 120, 140, or 200. So and that's just mono. And this is if I go braid. Unusual. Normally you would have two flaps. In information on flap. This is strange. It's from the factory. It was still sealed, but one flap was protecting it, and the other flap is folded into the side. Now that I was not aware of, because when I got this from the now defunct Sports Authority, they I bought this one, and the other one I bought, they did the line for me and everything. So this is the first time I get to see it. Some extra shims. Very important to have that. So instructions, as well as um, registering your product. So again, very important. Now there's 6 things that are, I guess you would call a selling feature for the Sedonas back then. And some of them are kind of hard to beat even by today's standards. The first one I'd like to touch is what you call Fluiddrive 2 gearing system. Now, well, a gearing system is a gearing system, but what they're trying to say over here is that after um, the cutting process of cutting the gears on the inside, the process known as Fluiddrive is going to polish the gearing to make it more rounded, so there's no rough surfaces, and that should maximize the teeth contact to be smooth and effortless. So I'm pretty sure most companies do that now with their products, but you got to remember, this was like 8 to 10 years ago. A lot of this stuff was breaking edge technology. The second thing that makes this hit back then, they call it a Dyna balance anti Anti-Wobble system. Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, it's kind of like car tire balancing. It reduces wobble during retrieval. So when you're retrieving the line, it reduces how this reel reacts. See how it's smooth like that and it's straight? It doesn't wobble. Now, you know what? Okuma's been doing something like this for a while, but they call it they call it a torsion control armor. So it's like Knights of Old, they would have a thin armor across this whole thing that actually will help give it rigidity so it reduces wobble. Okay, the third thing is it's called a Varispeed oscillation system. Now this one kind of got me because I couldn't figure out where to get that information. But according to looking at the internet, they said the variable centrifugal braking system is what helps this reel cast farther while reducing backlashing. So you can cast really far without without the risk of having any type of backlashing whatsoever. So then again, this is technology from 8 to 10 years ago. Like I keep saying, it's not what is breaking now, but it's what's incorporated in pretty much most of the reels nowadays. But back then, this was something very important. Also, it has something called an oversized power roller line system right here. This is considered oversized. Now, a lot of companies from Okuma down to Daiwa, even Penn, are doing this. Yeah, this oversized, so it's less wear and tear on the bearing system. So it's something that a lot of companies are doing right now because when you make it larger, it reduces friction, especially during hookups, and it keeps everything smoother and reduces backlashes as well. So that's something that is very, very important. The fifth item is the Super Stopper 2 anti-reverse. So basically put right here, anti-reverse feature, which I don't understand why all these companies are doing this. You know, I just don't understand why. So what happens here is that it basically prevents a spool from going in the opposite direction. Well, everybody does that nowadays, but back then you had to give that as a feature that is very, very important. And lastly, it has propulsion line management system, and that's pretty obvious. Look at the lip. Look at the edge of the lip. Instead of going flat, some of the cheaper spinners nowadays would be flat. See how this is cut in, is beveled. See, like a beveled edge. So this way, the line will peel off smoother and easier. You get farther through, and since then they've enhanced this. All companies have enhanced this technology by using hardened steel on the corners here. So it's tempered hardened steel. So you don't want this to chip. If it chips and the line goes over it, it's going to go nick, 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 nick. You don't want that. So that's why when you buy used reels, you look at the pictures very carefully to make sure that there's no nicking on that lip. So basically, that is it. That is your Sedona 2500 FD. This is probably the only decent, I shouldn't say, probably the only full on review on the internet, because the only other one I could find was just like, say, here it is. And she kind of did an intro and that was it. So pretty much my boy can do that and he's a Chihuahua. The only thing I don't like about this, look how thin the bell wire is. I mean, even for Shimano, their bell wires are much thicker nowadays, but you can see that that is unusually thin. But this was back then. Um, Nowadays, Shimano, I would say Shimano has learned the lesson, as well as Okuma. Okuma offers the thickest bell wires on even the more inexpensive models, but I've seen a lot of the recent Shimano ones, and Shimano has gotten away from these thin bell wires, and they're much thicker now. So there you have it, guys. I'll be using this again. I'm gonna have figure out what type of line I'm gonna put on it. But there you go. Thank you. Hey, by the way, because this has been sitting around for 8, 10 years in storage, even though the storage was climate controlled, this was not free spooling that well. Still needs to be worked on, but considering the age, this is not bad. So what I did is I opened up this port here, and I used some silicone spray. Better to use lube, but I just wanted to get something done. So I opened both of this, shot some inside, took the spool off, lubed up the main shaft inside, put this back on. Right here is the roller bearing. See that screw there? I took that halfway off, gave a squirt there, put it back on, and this was sticking. So look at it. Now it's good because I loosened this up halfway, both sides. Just shot it in, one shot each. Look, I should have showed you this beforehand, but now it's working good. So there you go. It's because I use silicone lubricant. Is for a very fast job until I can get in there and really clean out some of the old grease and put in some new lube. This will at least get me into the water. I mean, everything right now is nice and loose. I kind of miss this style, especially with this ported handle. I used to put my clip through there, and then when I was doing some light dunking on the shoreline, and I'll hang it off. But back then, I also had the 4000, which was a little bit better suited for that. Alrighty, thank you.